everyone, it's Reen from Embroidery Garden, and welcome to video 3 of Embroidery Garden Snowman Snowball SnowAlong. I'm going to let everyone kind of get onto the live here. I decided to do video 3 as a Facebook Live. Let me just make sure that it's on. I see that it's on. A couple people are here. Go ahead and, comment where you're from, how far along you are in the SnowAlong, and we'll let a few more people get in here, and then I'll get started with the next part of the SnowAlong. You can see I got some friends here with me today. Let's see, I've got a comment here. Georgia says, yay, good. I'm glad you are liking the SnowAlong. I decided to do it. I may put all the videos and the live that I'm doing now up on YouTube. Not 100% sure yet, but do post in the group your snowballs as you're finishing up or the step that you're on. So how's everybody doing this during this quarantine? I mean, I actually had to take a shower, get dressed, fix my hair today. It's so much fun just to sit around in your pajamas all day and not have to do that. Let's see, Pamela's got her face embroidered. Good, she's enjoying the videos. We got Barb from Fort Wayne. And Janet is here from Ohio. So let's go ahead and get started. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my laptop around. All my snowballs are going to go rolling. But I'm going to turn the laptop around, go over to the machine, and we'll get started with where I left off in video 2. So let me just move some of my snowballs, get my laptop turned around so I'll be able to answer some questions later on here. Get my microphone hooked up. All right, so where I left off in the last video, everyone was working on stitching their faces. Let me move the camera too. That would help, wouldn't it? Okay, I think that's good. Okay, so everyone was stitching their faces. I see some of you have posted some in the group that you did. So now I'm ready to take my face out of the hoop. I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to take these pins out first. But I want you to notice something because I saw a question or two, a comment or two in the group about the faces and about them centering. Again, every face is centered. If you look at this snowball, and let me bring it a little bit closer, you may look at it and say, I don't think it's centered. Look at the eyes. The eyes aren't over the seam, right? Here's the seam. If you can't see it, it runs right down here. Now the eyes, you can see, aren't centered over the seam. I purposely stitched this face so I'd be able to show you something. When you look at this face, a lot of you immediately look to the eyes to see where the eyes are. But you have to look at the entire face. And if you notice, the tongue sticks out further than the edge of the face. So the face is centered. And I'm going to get a tape measure here. And I want to show you this. So on this side, if I measure from the edge of the face to the edge of the fleece panel, let me get it set up and then I'll show you. So I'm going from the edge of the fleece to the edge of the mouth. It's 3/4 of an inch. So if I measure now from the furthest part of the tongue that sticks out to the right to the edge of the fleece, it'll be 3/4 of an inch. So let me get that set up. So here I am, I'm at the edge of the tongue, and then I'm here, right here is the edge of the fleece. You can see it's 3/4 of an inch too. So again, the faces are centered. Don't worry about the seams. Think as the seams, a snowball is seamless. So don't look at the seams when you do stitch any of the faces and think they're not centered, because all of the faces are. There are some snowballs that the nose sticks way out to the right or to the left. So you have to look at the entire face, not just the eyes and where they land on the seam. All right, so everybody's got their face done. I'm going to go ahead and take them out of the hoop. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull this solvay off. And I'm just going to pull it right off. See how nicely it tears away from the edge of the stitching? Some of the faces, there might be a small little area. You might have to use tweezers. But the solvay will pull right off. And again, we use this to keep our stitches sitting very nicely on top of the fleece. Okay, so now I've got cutaway that I've stitched the face, I put the fleece on and stitched the face on top of the cutaway. There was a question in the group about using tearaway. And yes, in some of my older sets, I have done 6 sets plus the emoji set and the superhero set. And in some of the earlier sets, I did use tearaway. And sometimes I floated a second piece of tearaway under the hoop. If you don't know what floating means, let's say that you have, this has been hooped. Floating would be just taking another piece of stabilizer and just sliding it up underneath the hoop. Again, you have to stabilize the fleece well so that you get no shifting of any outlines or any of the stitching. So after, I can't really remember what set it was. Maybe it was set number 3, maybe 4, I don't know. But then I switched to doing cutaway, and I like the piece of cutaway much better. So after you've taken the solvay off, I'm going to just go to the back side. And since I did use spray, I'm just going to kind of lift my fleece up a little bit. But I am going to trim it away from around the face. I don't have to get like super close, but I want to get like the majority of this out of there. And the reason, so that when I stuff my snowball, I don't have a lot of cutaway in there, and it's not going to, it's going to be in the way. It's not going to stretch nicely when I start stuffing. So all I'm doing is just cutting close around the parts of the face. Every snowball is different because of the face. Just don't cut into your fleece. And here. You don't have to get every bit of the stabilizer out, but you want to make sure that you get, the majority of it off. Okay, so now it's like this. And sometimes, depending on the face, I might take my scissors, make sure you're not cutting your fleece, and just kind of cut into the stabilizer. I'm not going to go around the eyes, every element of the face. But what this does is when you start to stuff it, it helps it to bend more, because I like my faces, I like the snowballs to be nice and round. So to go back now and review what we did last week, or the last video, remember we had stitched 3 plain panels together. We had stitched the 2 panels together, embroidered the face on, and we have another extra panel here. This panel is going to go onto the face because we want to end up with 2 3-panel pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin this onto one side of the face, right sides together. Again, I like to start at the top here and match the points up. Then I go to the bottom, match the points up there. And I want to pin. And then I'm going to come on the side, match the side up, and put another pin there. Okay, so now I'm ready to stitch. I do have my 1/4 inch foot on still, and I'm going to start stitching again about a 1/4 inch from the edge here, stitch a 1/4 inch all the way around, use my 1/4 inch foot, and stop about a 1/4 inch from the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and get this underneath the foot. Again, I'm using black thread on the top. That's just so you can see the stitching. Naturally, you would use white thread when you stitch these. So I'm going to go ahead and start. And I'm going to back stitch. I just back stitched a little bit there at the beginning. I'm going to start stitching. and I'm going to keep the edge of my foot right along the edge of the fleece, that little indent on the 1/4 inch foot. I'm getting close to my pin, so I'm going to stop. And I'm going to keep coming around until I get close to the bottom. Getting close to my pin, so I'm going to stop, remove my pin, and at this point I'm going to lift my foot up, and I'll go ahead and use the button here. But I want to make sure that my points are together here at the bottom. And let me use a pin here to kind of pull it down a little bit. I like to make them all nice and even. All right, so I got everything even. I'm going to lower the foot down, and I'm going to stitch to a 1/4 inch from the end, back stitch, cut my thread, and you can see now I have stitched this piece on to the 2-panel face piece. Get rid of these threads here. I'm going to check and see if anyone has any comments, any messages since I started. Molly wants to know how can I sew without using the foot pedal? I have not used the foot pedal since I got a machine that has the go button right here. Let's see. Michelle wants to say, or I can sew one-handed. Well, I normally don't, but I'm trying to keep my hands away so you can see as I sew. Hi, Lisa. Glad you think the snowballs are adorable. I kind of think they are too. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to continue on. Again, we have 2 3-panel pieces, and now we have to put these together. So what I like to do, they're going to go right sides together. I'm going to get them all together here at the top. Now, an important thing is after we pin this together, we're going to make sure that we don't leave our opening here on the face side. That would look really bad, wouldn't it, if we had our opening right here. So what I like to do is I like to get the little panels together, and look, I can see that I did not, my back stitch didn't hold when I did my 2-panel piece to begin with. So let me just go and fix that real quick. Otherwise, I'll have a little hole at the top of my snowball. Okay, I'm just going to line up the stitching. And I'm going to try and get these, let me put my needle down. I'm going to try and get those points over to the side. Put my foot back down. And I'm just going to go ahead and stitch that. Make sure I back stitch there. I probably didn't back stitch. Okay, so now that looks better. So first I want to match up my points at the top. Okay, and I'm going to pin this. I'm going to pin a lot as I work around, but I always pin at the top and then go down to the bottom and pin. Get everything lined up and get a pin down here. Now I want to make sure that I completely stitch this side with the face on it. I don't want to leave my opening on this side, so I always work on this side next, so I remember not to leave the opening there. So I want to make sure that I get the fleece together here in the center and put a pin in the middle. Come back this way here, make sure it lines up. That's all I'm doing, is making sure that the edges line up all the way around. Make sure that's lined up there, put a pin there. Now this is the side, the 2 plain pieces, the 2 plain panels, and on this side is where I want to leave the opening. So what I like to do here is actually pin it, my opening. That's where I'm going to leave my opening, between those 2 pins. So I'll make sure I line it up here, add a pin, go down here, make sure it's lined up, and put a pin. So when I start to sew, I'm going to start sewing here, back stitch, go a 1/4 inch all the way around, and stop at this pin, back stitching. So here is my opening. I'm going to have to go slow and because I got to remove my pins as I go, but I'm going to try to keep my hands out of the way as much as possible. So I'm going to start here at one edge of my opening. I'm going to take this pin out, and I'm going to go ahead and start back stitch. So all I did was just start and back stitch there. I'm going to start coming around close to my pin. I'm going to stop and get that pin out of the way. Now, when you get down here to this bulky part, this is where all these seams are coming together. I like to make sure on the bottom that these seams here are laying off to the right. These other seams are laying off to the left. I kind of like to do that on the top too. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. If one of them kind of flips over, don't worry about it. But I'm going to sew until I get close, because as you see what's going to happen, my foot is going to pull that seam over to the left. So I'm going to raise my foot up, just use something to push that seam down underneath, put the foot back down, make sure everything is straightened out. I do have my pin there. I want to get that out of the way. And I'm going to just keep coming around. I'm sewing in a circle. Okay. I'll go ahead and take this pin out and try to let you be able to see how I'm sewing. You want to make sure that that foot stays on the edge of the fleece. I'm getting close to the pin again. Take it out. Because the fleece stretches, so it's going to move on you somewhat as you are stitching. You know, if you really wanted to, you could get a walking foot out, but who wants to do that? Let's see. Kathy is asking, do I like having my luminaire on the corner? Yes, I do. It has enough room to move, even with the big frame on it. Personally, I like my machines that I embroider on to be waist high because I like to stand. When we moved the table that I had my luminaire on, my husband could not get it out of the basement. He built it in the basement and it was too big to take out. Molly's got a good tip. She says sometimes she tacks the points together before she starts to stitch around. That's a really good tip. I'm going to go ahead, I got to remove this pin, and I'm going to sew until I get down here at the bottom. Again, see how it's pushing the seams over? Let me take the pin out. I'm going to lift my foot up. I'm going to get these seams down under the foot, put the foot back down, make sure everything looks good, and I'm going to keep sewing around in a circle, getting close to the other pin. Now this pin here is marking my opening. I have to stop at that pin. Your opening, it all depends how big you want to make it. I personally make my opening as small as I can make it and still turn it. So I'm taking that pin out, sure I'm still lined up, and I'm just going to back stitch. So I'm just back stitching right there. Cut my thread, and you can see that I have stitched around in a circle and left an opening. So now I'm ready to turn it to the right side. Again, you would be using white thread, because after I turn it, you're going to be able to probably see some of that black thread peeking through on my seams. But I wanted to do that so you'd be able to see it. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it. And like I said, I prefer to make my opening as small as I can and still turn it. Fleece is very forgiving. Okay, so let's check my points. Again, you're going to see some black thread, but here are my points there at the top. I think that looks perfectly fine. Here are my points down here at the bottom, and they look fine. Don't get upset if your points don't match exactly. These are snowballs. It's not a fine garment. Let's go and look at some of these. Look at this one. I happen to get that one. I got that pretty close when I made this one. Here's the bottom. Looks perfectly fine to me. Again, these are snowballs. They're toys. They're not a piece of, you're not wearing them. It's not some fine dress or something that you're making. Okay, so the snowball's ready to be stuffed. I use fiber fill. Okay, I use polyfill, fiber fill. That's the stuff that I use. And when I stuff, I like to stuff my snowballs very, very full. So I'm just going to start getting the stuffing, turn around here so you can see a little bit, into the back. I'm just pushing it in. Okay, and then I like to kind of push it down to the bottom or up to the top. It doesn't really matter. But if you've been to any of my events and you have seen my snowballs in person, you know that I like to stuff them firmly. So I'll be stuffing along, get stuffed, and I will just keep shoving more and more stuffing into it. How much stuffing you put in is really up to you. Some people like their snowballs smushier. Some people like them firmer. It's not, like a science. Although I've had some people say they weigh their snowballs to make sure that each one has the same amount of stuffing in it. But you just keep going, keep stuffing as much as you want. You can use a tool to push the stuffing in. This is something too that you can do as you watch TV. Get all your snowballs made, sit around watching TV at night and stuff your snowballs. So this one still needs stuffing to me. Actually, I need quite a bit more stuffing to make it a snowball that I like. But we'll just say that I have, stuffed my snowball as much as I want. So let me see which one. Okay, so this snowball, he's not sewn up. And if you look at him again, you can see that, by using the white thread, you can't see, as much as you could see because I use black on the other snowball. But to stitch your opening together, first make sure that you have your fleece is kind of turned in a little bit on the edge. Again, I like to make my hole as small as I can. And what I like to do is use a ladder stitch. And in all of my instructions, I think I linked to a YouTube video on how to do a ladder stitch. It's very easy. The one that pops up, the person doing it is using 2 different colors of material and a contrasting color of thread, so you can see exactly what she does. But to stitch the snowball up, I basically go up inside of this little fold. Let me get my needle in there first. Okay. Then you come and you're on the opposite side of the seam. Here's the seam running right here. You come on the opposite side of the seam and you're going through the fold. Okay, that little fold there. Then I'm going to go back to the other side and I'm going inside the fold and I'm running my needle along the fold on the inside. Okay, and see when you start to pull it tight that you can't see it. Let me take a few more stitches. Coming back this way, again, it's a ladder stitch. I'm running the needle underneath that fold. I'm going to come back to the opposite side, go up inside the fold, run my needle parallel to that fold. This is a little hard to do at this angle for me, but you can see that you can't see the stitching when I pull it tight. Okay, so this is how you do the ladder stitch. It's just going back and forth. You are going into the fold, along the fold, then coming back to the opposite side, and then just knot it off at the end. And there it is. That's how you make a snowball. That's how you finish the snowball off. So I'm going to look to see if there are any questions. And then I'll talk about what is going to happen in the next video, the last video. Carrie says I got good looking points. Thanks, Carrie. It, like I said, it doesn't matter if they're off a little bit. Nobody's going to know. Let's see if I've got any other questions. Kathy likes the circle idea. I do too. In some of the earlier sets, I do it a little bit differently. But, you know, I've started the snowballs, gosh, I have to think at this point, maybe close to 10 years ago, I started doing the snowballs. And, you know, as you do more sets, you work more, you come up with better ways that you like better of doing something. And so the later sets are what I like. I like stitching them together in the circle. I like stopping and starting a 1/4 inch at the beginning and the end. And I like using the ladder stitch to stitch them closed. And let's see if there's any other questions. If not, I'm going to go ahead and in the last video, what I'm going to talk about is making a snow person like that one there. And basically all you're doing, you can use any snowball set to make a standing snowman. I also have instructions on my website. If you want to purchase the written assembly instructions, just go to my website, embroiderygarden.com, type assembly into the search box in the upper left, and it'll pop up. To make a standing snowman, you can use any snowball set I have, any snowball set. You're going to make a snowball, just like you normally do. You're going to basically use the template that you got included with the set, and you're going to enlarge it. So a few years ago, and just make a regular snowball, and that's his body. A few years ago, I did an event over near Fishers, Indiana, and Linda came to the event, and she brought this ginormous snowman that she had made, and I loved it. It was absolutely adorable. She had actually made it with black and gold for Purdue, which both my kids have gone to Purdue. But anyway, I just loved it. And I ran across that photo that I took with that snowman sometime last year, and I posted it in the group. And Linda's in my group. She's been in it for a long time. And that got the ball rolling again about how to make a snowman. And then everyone started to enlarge all the pieces and make the big snowman. This one is made using Minky, the cuddle fabric. It is so soft and so nice. So the next video that I do, I'll go over enlarging the template. There are, Linda actually provided some guidelines, some instruction about the percentages that she used when she enlarged the panel to make a head, because you can see it is a lot bigger, and the percentages she used to enlarge the panel to make the body. You could decorate these any way that you want. I got a video on how to make a hat. This is a different hat, but very simple, easy to make. Scarf. It's just a length of fleece that's been fringed on the end, and we'll get into that in the next video. You can decorate it any way that you want. A lot of people have used designs from my friend Rhonda's site, stitchanddesigns.com, and she makes a lot of little minis, little snowflakes, little things, buttons. She even came out with buttons for people to use on the snowmen to embroider on, and they look adorable. So I want you to say thanks for watching, and this is video 3 on the SnowAlong, and I'll see you again for video 4. Thanks, everyone.